All right. Still on the applicator project. We're gonna be on this for the next couple days, and then this weekend I got a brush pile to burn over at the new hay fields. Hopefully the snow's melted enough by that point we can actually see what that field looks like, because I haven't been over there since it's been a minute. Before harvest, I have seen it. It came up good, but I haven't seen it since before harvest, so I don't know how much it's changed. So hopefully we can see that this weekend if the snow's gone, which is well on its way. But for now we're still on this project. I spent most of yesterday, actually I spent all of yesterday cleaning parts. Got the hydraulic head all cleaned up, so it's all ready to go back together. All the seals are knocked out of it. Everything that was stuck is unstuck. The only thing I got to do, I think we've got bolts long enough to replace the ones that hold everything together, but if not, I'll have to get bolts. And as you can see, the gearbox ended up having to come apart because I was ordering parts for it yesterday, and I was sitting there spinning the pump over, just playing with it while I was talking to the guy on the phone, and notice this. That's a wee bit tweaked. So my initial hope for to be able to get it out and straighten it and put it back together, but when I got it apart, I noticed that there is a real bad, I don't know if it's a seal groove, I don't know what, it has to be a seal groove, I don't know what else would do that, but if it is a seal groove, it's nasty, right at the point where it bent, and it's deep, and it's worn to a sharp point. And this is obviously, since it's got seals and stuff on it, this is probably at least case hardened, if not like made out of 4140 or something. So it's probably a hardened shaft. So the fear was, you go to straighten this thing out, even though it's only a slight bend, since the bend is right there at that sharp gouge out of the shaft, that it would create a weak point and the shaft would snap. Because that's right at, there's a bearing that rides right here, so I mean if it's going to snap, it's going to be flush with the bearing, and naturally if it breaks, it's going to be when you're using it. And the last thing you want during side dress season is to have to stop and tear a pump down and put a new drive shaft in it, so I ended up just ordering a new shaft. And in the process of getting everything apart, the setting quadrant broke on me because they gave you no way to get a hold of this dang thing, like whatsoever, and it was very, very, very stuck. Go figure, the part that actually touches fertilizer came apart like a dream, and the part that never should touch fertilizer at all had to come apart with heat. So I ordered a new quadrant, I ordered a new setting scale, I think that was it, just a setting scale, a quadrant, and a shaft. Everything else was good, and this was kind of neat. The bearings in it, the bearings are good, but they are made, I've never even heard of this company. Where was the RHP, made in England. I've never heard of them before, and I never even knew. I mean, obviously you would think during World War II and stuff there would be bearing manufacturers in England, but I guess bearing manufacturing isn't necessarily something you associate with England, so, and both bearings are the same. So that was kind of neat. Just, I don't know, I thought it was kind of neat. Better than China bearings. So anyhow, so that's an update on the pump. It's waiting on parts. So anyhow, we'll walk up here and we'll see what we're doing today. All right, so now we have to get this dug back out. Naturally, it's buried. Now that I look at it, I think my best bet is to just get the forklift to move the tracks. because kind of everything is buried behind these things right now. As you can see, they're not actually cleaned up because when I was power washing, they were froze. And my power washer didn't have enough ass to blow all that frozen stuff off, so they're still dirty. I was waiting until things thawed out to actually get them cleaned up and find a better spot to put them. But I think for now, we'll move them over here. I got to get the OG subframes, got to get out of there so we can cut the pipe out of the center to save it, and then the nubbins for the stub axles are going to scrap. But anyway, I need to get the cart out of there, and I might as well get the coulters pulled out where we can get at them. The one thing I was going to check, because those look an awful lot like sweet. They came off of a toolbar. I never measured if that's 6x6 or 7x7 box. Might be 6x6. But anyway, they came off of the same size toolbar, so don't even have to do anything to the brackets. They'll just go right on, which is neat. That's super minty. And the other thing, I'm gonna have to get I don't know what that sprocket's for. I never did look through this. Oh, there's the knives. Those things are shot, but at least I know what size knives are. So I gotta measure up what size coulters I need. I'm guessing, judging by how big they are, 20s. So I gotta get coulters coming for it. Obviously I'll have to get in shoop and figure out and get knives coming for it. I had initially thought about running injectors, but I don't know, I'd rather have the knives. I'd rather make sure it gets in the ground, because the problem with the injectors that I've talked to, everybody I've talked to about the injector says they're great, they work really good, but if they get knocked a little bit out of alignment, something bounces up, a cloud of dirt or rock, whatever, knocks them, and then next thing you know, they're off track and they're just shooting it on top of the ground, and they like to plug fairly easy. Which, don't get me wrong, the knives aren't perfect either, but we're sticking with knives. But anyway, I'm gonna go get the forklift. I was gonna use the 1600, but I forgot those two pallets of blocks are there, so I was just gonna swing it out that way. But we'll go get the forklift. All right, I managed to get the tracks moved with a fair bit of difficulty. The dang things were froze to the ground. I couldn't get enough traction with the forklift to get under them because there was still snow. Well, slush now, whatever you want to call it, crap. Oh, come on. To tell you the truth, at this point, I'd rather it still be that freezing cold temperatures we had last week, 'cause at least that keeps the snow not this crap, and you can at least do something in it other than what we are, as opposed to this crap we have now, which is snow on top of water. Surprisingly not much flooding at this time though. That's not to say there's probably not oodles of water standing underneath the snow, but visibly you can't see much going on right now. can pull that down to the shop. My God, does this weather just suck. Just everything. My jeans are soaked, my boots are soaked, my socks are soaked, my gloves are soaked, my coat's soaked. Just bleh. But anyhow, so obviously got the cultivator now. This toolbar is getting completely shit canned, so we can get this taken off. Probably cut the good box tube out of it and scrap the rest, which, I mean, these tabs can be cut off easy enough, so we could save the box tube from there all the way down to here, because that's all clean box tube, and the wings we can cut off here, so it'll basically just be the hinges. The pull drawbars, whatever you want to call them, we could probably cut these off right here and save this section. We might be able to reuse the rock shaft, maybe. But we are kind of going in a completely different direction than what was originally intended. Originally, the intent was to, and this, like most projects, this just kind of keeps snowballing. The original intent was to narrow this up so that it was on a 30-inch wheel track, because right now it's set up to straddle 36s. It would actually probably straddle 36s, 38s, and 40s the way it's set up right now. It's basically a wide row. But the original intent was to move the landing gears in and narrow it up to straddle 30s and figure out something different for a toolbar to make it cover 8 rows instead of 6 and kind of run it this way. But now with that cultivator frame and just the general make it more practical and easier to grow and grow into, probably not a whole lot of this gonna actually get used. Basically we're probably gonna cut it up for the usable steel. So I'm gonna get a axle off of a manure spreader that my boss is scrapping out. It's a new idea. It's got 8-bolt heavy hubs on it. His dad said the wheels for it are laying around there somewhere, but basically go up to 8-bolt hubs, A, to carry the weight, and B, so we can run bigger tires. So get some taller tires on it for ground clearance. So I don't know if that spreader had 20s or 24s on it. I gotta find the rims. He said they're there. I just gotta go digging. The axle itself is junk, typical new idea I-beam axle. It's all rusted out, but the hubs are good. The bearings feel good, and hopefully the spindles are usable. We'll find out. Otherwise, I might have to see if I can come up with some different spindles. But the hubs and the wheels will be the big thing. But get it up on taller tires. Going to make it probably to where the toolbar is actually in front like a modern applicator, which the original intent was to just put it back here to simplify things while things get out of hand. So it'll probably be a forward toolbar, and the only thing that will probably end up getting used off of this is the tank saddles, which these will have to be modified to center them up, and probably the main frame itself, but cut. The braces will probably stay in just for rigidity, honestly, but cut the landing gear off, shit can the landing gear, shit can the toolbar, cut the tongue off of it. May or may not be able to reuse parts of the tongue. But basically take the frame, modify the tank saddles to where they're centered on the frame rather than offset to the front, turn the frame sideways, and now this will be the front of the applicator. It'll pull long ways. You'll have a high clearance axle underneath with taller tires, probably ag tread or like R1 tread, tractor tread, and toolbar here, tongue tractor. So that was kind of our initial thoughts. I was going to start getting this tore down, getting parts off of it so that we can look and see. The only thing that sucks that I didn't notice before, but I noticed when I was pulling it out, was this isn't all the same size channel. This looks like 5-inch and this looks like 6-inch maybe, which kind of sucks. I was hoping it was the same size channel all the way around. I guess that's more aesthetics than anything, but we'll get Dad here to look at it and start getting his thoughts on it. But anyway, might as well start tearing it down, I guess. Get the stuff off of it that can be used. Okay, so those tank bolts are screwed. Those are gonna have to get cut off. Alright, so I got it all tore down. I did manage to save some decent 3/4 square nuts. Square hardware is always worth keeping around if you got like old plows and stuff around that use that kind of stuff, because you can still buy brand new square hardware, but it ain't cheap. So if you can save stuff in decent shape, it's generally worth having around. But Dad and I have been out here talking about this for probably better part of an hour or so, going over different scenarios, the whole point of this is to try to do it on the cheap, because if this turns into a $10,000 project, buying all new steel and making a new frame and stuff, at that point you could have just went out and bought an 8-row applicator and been done. The whole point of this is trying to do it on the cheap. And we discussed making a new tongue, putting the toolbar off the front, putting the toolbar off the back, a couple different options. So we got some stuff going, or we're looking at that, both that way. And we also discussed and it would probably be the easiest way. It wouldn't necessarily be the most convenient because it would be 3-point, but leave the cultivator toolbar 3-point mounted and just make this into a cart and just pull it behind it as a tanker cart, which would keep things nice and light, which that's my second goal. Not only so that you don't have to have a big honking tractor to run this thing, but also my thoughts are keeping it light for the muck. That would keep it light, wouldn't have to build a whole lot of framework. It would balance everything with the tractor and this pretty well, and it would be the fastest and it would be the cheapest way to go about it. So we're looking at those three options. Basically the next step is going to have to be get the toolbar assembled, which we'll probably work on that tomorrow night. But get the toolbar assembled and we'll see what that's going to look like, to see how much room it's going to need and how much room it's going to take up. So, and the other option we looked at is, rather than, like I said, when we were looking at just cutting all the crap off of this, turning the frame and making it long, the other option that we looked at, because it measures out, there'd be a row here on this mark, and there'd be a row right, the edge of this channel right here would be the center of a 30-inch row. So there'd be a row of corn here, corn here, corn here, corn here. And the other option I looked at, or the other thing we were talking about, is rather than turning everything and making it long, leave the frame this way, and if we end up going with the bigger tires and everything, make it straddle 430s instead of 2, so you'd have your center of your tire would end up roughly, 15 inches off of the edge here, so somewhere in here. And because that cultivator toolbar, the main section of the bar is 11 foot overall, so if you had 120 inch wheel track to straddle 4, you would be still narrower than that toolbar. So that's an option. So we're kind of trying to make the most use of all the parts I've accumulated for this project and not have to buy a crap ton of new steel, because that gets really salty really fast. Just the steel for that subframe, between the steel and with the laser cutting, so that added a little bit, but not a lot. The place Dad gets that done at actually cuts him a pretty good deal on it, because he does a lot of work for him to begin with. But so the little bit of steel, the box tube, the flame cut parts, and the pins, which the pins were the most expensive, but that was almost $2,000 worth of, it was $1,700 and some change for almost $2,000 worth of steel just to build that subframe. So, and there'd be more steel than that involved in making new tongues and rock shaft and cylinder mounts and all that stuff. So it wouldn't be, I mean, if we went that route, it wouldn't be unimaginable to wrap up $5,000 worth of new steel into this thing to build it stout. So we're going to look at all the options here, but like I say, the next step is going to be get the toolbar assembled. So that's probably what we'll do next. And then once I get the toolbar assembled too, I can also get coulters and stuff ordered for it and start working, because that's the other thing. Got to take into account not just steel, but I got to get tubing, I got to get visi gauges, I got to get check valves, I got to get orifices, I got to get coulters, I got to get knives. So there's probably a couple grand worth of parts just to make the toolbar functional, on top of everything else. So it's all fluid. But anyhow, I'm gonna cut my steel up off of here and throw the rest of it in the scrap hopper, and that'll be it for tonight. So I guess with that being said, that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.